Okay guys, so we're going to be talking about translations today. So what a translation is it's how we move a figure around on a plane. And in a translation, every point is moved the same distance in the same direction. The first shape is the original, the second shape is we call prime, and the shapes are they're the exact same thing. And in a translation, the initial figure and the image, so that's the copy, have the same orientation. They can move up, down, left, right, they can move everywhere. So we're going to talk about how we actually are going to do this. So if we look at the triangle at the top. So the way we do this is we need our ruler and we need our triangle, as well as a compass. Without these things, this does not work. So, what we have to do with a pencil also. First, we need to look at where our translation arrow is going. This right here is our translation arrow, and it is moving to the right. So what we do is we make our triangle, we put our triangle on the longest side of the translation arrow. So the longest side of the triangle has to be on the translation arrow. And we take our ruler and we put that on the shortest side of the triangle, like this. So if you look, if I move the triangle, it's always going to be parallel to that line. And then and so before that though, we also have to label it. So on this triangle, we're going to have point A, point B, and point C. Okay? So we have A, B, and C. So now we're actually going to move this to translate it. So we put our triangle right there on the translation line. Okay? So we have it right there on the translation line, and we slide it to point A. We start with A, so we put it right there at A, and we draw a line. Then we go to point B and point C, and again we draw a line. These lines are, if we go and set it up this way using the ruler on the short side of the triangle and the longest side with the translation arrow, this will work. So now what we do is we take our compass and we measure the size of our translation arrow. So we put it right at the end and right at the tip so that they're the same. And now what I do is I go to each point. So I go to point A and I make an arc. I go to point B and it's always the same length. I make an arc, and then I do the same thing at point C, and I make an arc. What ends up happening now is this spot becomes A prime, because this is the image. This spot where I made the arc becomes B prime, and this spot right here where I made the arc becomes C prime. This is my new image, and now I take my ruler or my triangle and I connect them, and now I have my original, I have my image, and my image is labeled A prime, B prime, C prime. This little line means prime, and it's very important to have that there. The other way, there is another way of doing translation without using the triangle and the ruler together. And we're going to talk about that. So if we do the second one, again we have to label each point. So if we're doing this square right here, we have A, B, C, and D. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to use the compass again, and from the bottom of the translation arrow to A, we're going to measure until we get to A. Okay? So once you have that, now I have this space. Now I'm going to place my compass on the tip of my translation arrow, right here, right on the tip, and I'm going to make an arc. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the length of the translation arrow, just like we did before. I'm going to measure the length. Once I have the length, I'm going to place my compass on point A and make another arc. That's going to intersect with my first arc. This one I didn't make long enough, so I'll have to make it a little bit longer. Connect them. Okay, so here's my A prime. And now I do the same thing for B. So from the bottom of my translation arrow, I go to B, and then I move that to the tip of my arrow. I make another arc. I'll make this one a little bit bigger. I measure the length of my arrow. And then I move to B, and I make another arc. This becomes B prime. And then it's the same thing each time. So now I'll go and do C. So I measure the distance from the bottom to C. Go to the end of my translation arrow. Make an arc. I have a hard time with this one. Then again, measure the distance. Measure the length of my translation arrow. Which I did. Put it on C. And intersect that arc. Once again, guys, it happened. I didn't make it long enough. So I'll put it again at the very bottom of C. Intersect that. So now this becomes C prime. And then I do the same thing with D, finally. So I measure from here to D, connect, make an arc, make it nice and big this time. Measure the length of my translation arrow, which happens to be pretty much the length of D. So I make another, put it right on the point there. Arc. This point is D prime. And then again, now I have to use my ruler though to connect my shape. And you guys can see how it's moved diagonally. And that's it. That's the whole thing. That's all we need to do for translations. So I hope this was helpful. I mean, and in the end, if you wanted to use the ruler to do it, you could do the same thing where you set it up right here, and I just go C to C, D to D, A to A, and B to B. And you can see that these, with the exception of B because I was probably a little bit slippery and looking at the screen. These sync up pretty well. So this is it. This is how we do translations. I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and you guys got to do the rest now. All right? Take care, guys. Bye-bye.